Hi, and welcome to the Indie Music Podcast, the podcast for independent musicians and other audio professionals. We're your hosts. I'm Matt Denton, also known as Mojo of Ragged Birds Music. I'm a Bay Area mix engineer and recording artist. And Douglas Reynolds of Resonance Mastering, a mastering engineer in Bloomington, Illinois.
Welcome to Indie Music Podcast, episode 219. Today, Matt and Doug talk over Saturday morning coffee. They get into limiting beliefs and perceptions of failure and how they tend to deal with those situations. They talk about the importance of details, honesty, and the importance of giving and receiving feedback, and how giving feedback is a role of the mix and mastering engineer, as well as the producer. They talk about having a positive attitude and putting the work into the project that's necessary to succeed. They wrap up with a discussion about what is failure and the mindsets that turn failure into positive growth. Enjoy the show. Okay, I think that's good.
Cool. How's my level?
Your level's fine.
I'm trying the addition of a pop filter today. I feel like I've been getting some plosives lately.
Oh, I'm still using the foam on mine, but there's a shotgun mic pop filter that fits over the end of it instead of like the foam wrap, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm interested in maybe getting that and trying it out, but it's a little bit on the spendy side. It's $60 for a pop filter. But,
oh, yikes.
Yeah. But it's really nice. It's like all metal, and it's got like 3 different screens at different angles that
that's cool.
With a gap in between each one and stuff. So, I mean, it's probably worth $60, but
I was going to say for $60, it better be nice.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm used to the regular one that goes on just clips onto a mic stand and has the circle full of screen or whatever.
Oh, sure.
Those tend to be about $20, but I know that that's not what you use for a shotgun mic.
Yeah. I mean, there's probably a way to do that. Just would need a pretty long arm with the shotgun mic to reach out over the front of it, you know?
Yeah.
So what do you got going on this?
Maybe you need a Caterpillar.
What do you got going on this fine Saturday morning? Yeah, the Caterpillar. Oh, mine's not like the fuzzy one though. It's just the foam one. But
yeah,
those are good, especially if you're outside.
Oh yeah, totally. Because they cut down on the wind from all angles. That's a big deal. What do I have going on today? Well, I kind of got lost in the swamp of cleaning up documents on my hard drive. I feel like I should just delete everything because am I really ever going to look at that stuff again? I got just like 10 years of PDFs and webinar notes and advice from this and advice from that. And it's like, come on, if I ever, it's like recipes, I have all these cookbooks, but if I ever want to cook something, I go to I just Google a recipe and look at Pinterest or something. Like if I want to know something specific, I'm probably going to go right to YouTube or Google something. I'm not going to probably search through my hard drive for all this junk.
Yeah.
I probably should just get rid of it instead of trying to organize it.
Well, you could use metadata and then you could search it easy.
Yeah, I should be able to search it easy, but then, I'm historically, I've not been very good about naming things because I think I'll remember what it is. But
I suggest just selecting all and dragging into the
trash
external hard drive.
Yeah, that's a thought. But then if I do that, what's the point of keeping it at all?
Well,
I mean, these are just text documents mostly.
Mainly that small bit of fear that's, causing you the issue of this this bloated hard drive.
That's really what it is, isn't it? It's kind of like a low-level anxiety, and that's why I'm trying to organize it or get rid of it or whatever, because it's kind of like this low-level anxiety. What if I need it someday?
Yeah.
And it's kind of the same thing that makes you fill up your garage or your junk drawer.
Yeah.
It's almost kind of like one of those limiting belief kind of things, like a story we tell ourselves.
Yeah.
I might need it someday. Well, really, will you though? Maybe you won't. Maybe you won't need it ever. Maybe you didn't need it in the first place. Maybe the act of just writing it down, taking the notes or saving it, put that information in your head and you don't need to look at it again. Or maybe you move beyond it.
Yeah. How much energy does that just take to say that?
Why do you ask?
Because how better spent could that energy have been?
Well, that's really the thing, isn't it? And that's why I'm just kind of thinking about just deleting it all and forgetting about it instead of leaving it as brain clutter,
Yeah. Yeah. It just depends, if it's important to you, but you don't think you're going to get back to it. But just in case, I mean, throw it on an external drive. You've got everything met. It didn't take you very long. And then you have solved your bloated hard drive problem,
Yeah.
And external drives are cheap enough.
Sure.
You should have one anyway for whatever backups. And
yeah, I have a couple. Yeah, no, I think what I need to do really is go through it, see if there's anything that really is valuable that I need to reference or have on hand, and then, like throw the rest somewhere else.
Yeah. But then I would definitely add some metadata into those files and tag them, give them a color, you've got all that stuff available to you when you right click on a file and get info, and you can assign all kinds of metadata stuff.
I'm talking about thousands of files. So I don't have time for that. I don't have any interest in that.
No, I'm talking about just the ones that you think have merit to do so.
Oh yeah, totally.
And then once you get done tagging the ones you think you have merit, you've already made your culling, so you can just delete everything else.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a project, and it's a project that I feel like is a little bit of a procrastination project. Like I have better things to do than organize all the files that are sitting around in a bucket in my hard drive.
But to be honest with you, we've got better things to do than worry about that.
Also that.
Because honestly, the amount of energy that was just, I got anxiety listening to you. Okay.
That's the problem though, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah, anxiety is kind of like at a root of a lot of problems. And anxiety, so much of it is either self-inflicted, or B, just kind of imaginary. Like the whole thing about worry and anxiety, it's being upset about something that hasn't happened.
Yeah, and that's a lie.
It's really in your mind.
Doesn't exist.
Because it doesn't exist. That thing that you're afraid of, it's something that you imagine that's a possible future that probably won't even come to pass.
And that's also not living in the moment.
Correct. It's not living in the moment.
What's the past? Nothing you can do about it. And the future doesn't exist. All we got is right now.
Right.
And now.
Right.
And now. So.
My thing is, and I know that people can relate to this, is that as soon as I throw something away, I'm going to need it next week.
Yeah.
You go, hey, where was that PDF? Oh,
but what's the worst case?
I know the worst case is I go Google it and find something more current anyway.
Yeah.
That's another thing about this information. Some of this stuff changes so quickly that it's irrelevant, By the time I go back and look at it again, I'm like, oh, this is, tips for how to succeed on Instagram in 2015. Well, guess what? It didn't even matter in 2016, let alone 2021.
You know what's more fun is to try stuff and see if it works on Instagram, and that if it doesn't, you learn, you could call that a failure if you want. I'd like to make an analogy and give you a visualization about failure.
Okay.
Let's pretend that every failure is a 100-pound block. Okay. It's about 3 feet wide and, 7 or 8 inches tall and 12 inches deep, and you can lift it. All right. But how much can you lift? You could probably get, maybe a couple 100 pounds, whatever. So if each failure is that, and then, so the guy that defines himself by his failures is the guy that lifts each one of these blocks onto his head and carries it. Okay. And he's walking around with failure weight all over his head, and his knees are buckling and everything. Okay. Now there's another guy who takes each failure and learns something from it and builds upon it, improves from the experience. And that guy takes each block and creates a staircase with each one and walks up it, And so there's no fear or shame in failure. It's all about what you do with it.
Right.
The Instagram thing, again, what's the worst thing that could happen? You spent $10 on an ad that didn't do anything.
Right.
I can drink that in coffee in a couple hours,
Right.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
don't worry about it. What did you figure out from it? Did your target audience not quite what you think it should be? What did you learn from it? As long as you go back in and take a look at things from the experience and then grow from it, then failure is a tool to be used to improve yourself and whatever it is that you're working on, whether so your Instagram ads, do that a few times and you're going to have a really good Instagram ad at some point,
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. That's funny I just made that up as an example, but I did just happen to make my first Instagram ad this week. I'm dipping my toe in the water with a promoted post, which I know is not quite the same as a targeted ad, but I saw it pop up in my feed. I was like, oh wait, it's working, which was kind of neat.
Yeah. And then, you kind of figure out what are you hoping to get for it. So have some goal in mind, what's the action that I'm hoping someone takes on that? And
well, honestly, that's the real key is like, well, what do I hope comes from this?
Yeah.
Otherwise you're just wasting your money from the get-go.
Yeah. And then, that'll make you realize, well, it's actually to get people over to my website to do something.
Yep.
Does my website support that action? And, and then take a look at your website. Or is it to get to my profile and follow or just to read up about what I've got going on? Does my profile have what I want on it to support that? Do I need to work on my profile? So anyway, take those things and figure out what you need to do through the hopeful actions that you want people to take in those ads to support. It's like, if you're going to have an ad that does something to the website, maybe you should have a landing page to support them landing there. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I think that's a trap I see a lot of people fall into is the order of operations trap. Like they start making music and then they want to start promoting it. And it's like, but your music's not ready for everybody to listen to yet. You need to go back to square one. Make sure your production's solid. Make sure your songs are good. I mean, like the whole thing about marketing, like, okay, don't buy an ad if your website isn't ready to support people landing there. If they land there and go, oh, this is amateur, this is unnavigatable, this is not a very good website, they're never going to come back to you or click on another ad again.
Yeah, that ad would be spent to your detriment,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because then what are you really advertising? You're advertising the fact that you're not ready to receive people yet.
Yeah.
It's like inviting people over to an unfurnished or a messy house. Like they're not going to want to come back.
So how does that equate to a song that you're producing?
In terms of?
Well, when are you ready to release the song? What if you release it too early and it's not a good representation of what you wanted and people don't like it? Have you just promoted that to a negative effect for yourself?
Well, I think that depends too. And I think that comes back to what we mentioned a minute ago, because it's not any different from having an advertisement. It's a representation of something and you have a goal for releasing it. If your goal for releasing it is just to say, I'm expressing myself, I don't care what people think, here it is world, then you've achieved your goal. If your goal is, I want to get this placed in a movie, or I want radio airplay, well, it's got to be, it's got to be well written, it's got to be well produced, it's got to be mastered, it's got to be at a competitive level with everything else that's out there right now. Because there's, what is it? 60,000 songs released a day on Spotify or whatever. I mean, it has to be competitive. And if it's not at that level and you're wondering why it's not getting more clicks, well, maybe you need to go back to square one and have this vetted with a peer group or a group of people
my take on this type of thing has always been that if I maybe use an analogy to building cabinets, okay?
Mm-hmm.
The back of the cabinet that people are never going to see, and after the cabinet has been installed, is just as important to me as the front of the cabinet that they will see. Because even though they're not going to see it after the cabinet is installed, I go to bed at night with a vision of what the back of that cabinet looked like as I was installing.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I care about that. And so I think everything that I do, I want to be a representation of the care that I put into it.
Right.
So maybe that holds me up sometimes. It's not that I fear it, but it takes me a little longer to take the extra steps necessary to focus on the details that I'm concerned with that other people may not necessarily notice. I don't
Yeah.
know if
I'm
that's
not
good
sure
or
how
bad,
that
but
relates.
I think that
Well,
the sum of all the details, even ones that aren't noticed, are representative in the final product.
yeah, I agree that you should basically put all of your effort into whatever you're putting out there so that it's as full a representation as possible of your intent. And yeah, that does mean, paying attention to the details. I think the end goal is still important. And I think also some people think that they're think that they're ready when they're not, because they kind of live in a what do you call it? Like an echo chamber. Like when you're at home producing for yourself, and you're not getting a lot of feedback, or you're getting kind of like yes man feedback, or feedback from people that are like, oh yeah, that sounds great, instead of real constructive criticism that you build upon, like your stair analogy. I think that I've seen people get frustrated
Yeah.
when they think they're at a level beyond the level that they really are, because you're as old as you will ever be, and you're as good as you've ever been, but that doesn't mean you're as good as you will ever be. It doesn't mean your music will be as good as it'll ever get. But you have to keep producing it. You have to keep putting it out there, because those are the stepping stones to greatness, right?
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that you're great yet.
We all need a friend who's like, oh, dude, really?
Yeah.
Seriously?
Yeah, you need that. And I wish I had that earlier on, to say somebody to go, yeah, your vocals are out of tune, or, oh yeah, you know what, your mix is like bottom heavy, or your snare's too loud. I mean, I didn't have a lot of that. I just had a lot of, I had kind of the yes man stuff that it doesn't really help you in the long run.
And
It's
that's
encouragement, but
part
it
of the
doesn't
role
help you.
of a mix engineer when the recording stems come in. And it's
Yes.
also part of the role of the mastering engineer when the pre-master is delivered. And I don't know if everybody takes that role, or they just accept what they get. But, it may be you need to retract those guitars because that performance sucked.
Yeah.
And
like, there's a better way to say
Yeah.
that with people you don't know as well, but
maybe,
yeah.
Or it might be that was a great performance, but there was something wrong with the mic position or the EQing or something, and that take isn't going to work out. It could be much better, and starting with really good recordings makes a difference all the way down the line, so
Yeah, absolutely.
and so that feedback can come through the professional channels as well, and should be delivered much more friendlier than what I just did, and it's more of a teamwork thing where, hey, check this out. There's a problem here that I see. Here's an example of it. And here's what I'm hearing, what I think it could be better. And
Yeah.
and then to give some ideas on how to make it better if you feel qualified to do so.
Yeah.
So it doesn't just have to be a close friend. It could be the engineers that you're working with on your production. It could be your producer. That's like a primary
That's the role of a producer, yeah. Yeah, that's something I do a lot more now, because I do act in the role of a producer way more than I used to. But yeah, when I was starting out mixing, I kind of assumed that people were handing me the best that they could deliver. And I was like, okay, I guess it's supposed to sound like this. But now I definitely go back and say, hey, there's bleed on this, or hey, this is out of tune, or hey, did you mean for this to sound like this, or did you send me the wrong track? Or
Yeah.
I will definitely check when I think there's a question. And I have enough repeat customers or repeat clients that I definitely have a working relationship with them, that I can go back and say, hey, do you want to try again on this track? Because I don't think this sounds the way you thought it was going to sound, or whatever.
I mean, it could be some small stuff, we've got a lot of sibilants,
Mhm.
and it would be much easier to deal with that in your process than mine.
Mhm.
Because there's a lot of work for me to try and separate that out from the rest when if you could deal with that on the individual track.
Right. That's different for you as a mastering engineer because that's baked into the mix.
Yeah.
That's different for me as a mixing engineer that I can fix sibilance because I have the individual stems.
Yeah.
But if it's really bad, yeah, I'll definitely go back and go, yeah, you might want to re-record this if you can.
Yeah, that and all types of different noise and things like that. I've received pre-masters that have noise in them, just audible noise. And it was something that didn't, a lot of times in the mastering process, things get revealed that you don't hear until you start enhancing.
Right.
And things can come up. And sometimes that's a surprise. But then if you go back to listening to the source material and find that, it exists. It's just maybe at a lower level in a frequency band that you weren't enhancing in some way in that channel or something like that, or in that group, but it comes out in the overall mix. That type of thing happens a lot.
Because the level goes up and EQ gets enhanced, and then suddenly you're like, whoa, what is that hum?
Yeah, there's some 60 cycle hum there. We gotta, that's really becoming prominent or something along that lines. And so that's not performance related. It's, what would you call that? It's more of a technical, or it's a non-performance related issue in the audio. And
yeah, it's like a technical problem.
Yeah.
It's like almost like a deficiency, but
yeah, but anyway, so that stuff happens. And I guess the whole point of that is there are feedback channels there available,
so to speak.
Yeah.
It's a feedback channel. Get it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good to have a feedback loop that you trust. That's the whole path to success, right? You create, you get feedback, you iterate, right? It's the feedback loop to success. You build on, but you have to iterate first. You have to put something out there, and then you get feedback on it, and then you build on that feedback to your next iteration, and then it's hopefully an upward spiral. The echo chamber part is where you lose the feedback. You don't get proper feedback, and then your next iteration isn't better. Then you're not building an upward spiral. You're just kind of either going sideways or downwards.
Yeah. And the whole limiting beliefs thing and putting those limitations on yourself is self-defeating behavior from the get-go.
Yeah.
And there's a lot to be said for having a positive attitude. And there's and being willing to put the work into it. You could have a positive attitude, but not be willing to put the work into it. And that's no better than not starting. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But I think there's more to it than just positivity, because if you're positive and you're not very good and you think you're good and you keep going because you have a positive attitude about it, but you don't accept criticism because you don't think you need, you don't ask what you don't know. And if you don't think that you need to do better, then you won't do better. So I think that it's more of a growth mentality thing than an attitude thing in my way of thinking. Like knowing that you need to retool and regroup, after every iteration, and that's like being willing to be able to accept criticism. And
that
move beyond
defeats the purpose of momentum, though, too.
Which does.
If you stop and retool and reiterate after every time, then you're destroying momentum from what it is that you're moving through. So I wouldn't stop, I would be learning on the fly and keep moving and apply as you go.
Right. I see what you're saying. Yeah, I didn't necessarily mean like completely stop and say, okay, what am I doing here? But although once in a while you do have to do that, but I do think it's kind of cyclical.
Yeah. If things are going bad and it's failing, quotes, that's when to stop and take note and see what the problems are and get solutions together. Because you don't want to continue failing over and over again for the same reasons. That's not building staircases. That's adding weight to your head. You know what I mean?
True. Yeah, I guess then you have to define what is success and what is failure as you go, right?
Yeah. I mean, you should know what success is before you begin.
I think you cut out there. What did you say?
I said that you should know what success is before you begin.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I like to start everything by saying, what does success mean to you? Like basically defining kind of a mission statement for anything. How will you know when you're done? How will you know when you succeed? And not everything is failure. Something is just success on a slightly lower level than you were hoping.
Oh,
You know
sure.
what I mean? I only got 100 Spotify plays. Well, okay, that's less than 1,000, but it's more than zero. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's a measure of
Well,
success.
what's a failure is the only time you actually fail is when you quit.
True. Can't win if you don't play the game.
Yeah. Because if you continue growing and learning and working upon your experience, then you've never really failed.
I agree. Yeah. And if you're happy doing what you're doing, maybe it doesn't matter, right?
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Why did Bob Dylan just come to mind? If you have questionable song quality, but it makes you happy,
Yep.
then the whole idea of questionable song quality is someone else's perception and doesn't matter to you anyway.
That's true.
So who cares? The idea in that case, and I think probably in most all cases, is that, does this make me happy in the end? Did I have fun? Was this worth the effort that I put into it? Is it, am I going after my passions here? How am I feeling about it? Yeah, that's what really matters.
Yeah, I like that. Is this worth the effort thing? Now I'm back to thinking about organizing my hard drive. No, it is not worth the effort. But trying to bring this full circle to our original point was the idea of limiting beliefs. And what made me think of that in the first place was I was talking to a friend, and we had tried to hook up a couple times for a catch up chat, and he kind of flaked a bit, and finally came back and said, "Sorry, I'm terrible at this. I'm sorry, I'm a bad friend, and I'm just terrible at communication." And at first I said, no, obviously you're not a bad friend, and don't think that you need to bring any sort of particular energy level to our communication. We're friends. It doesn't matter. But the other thing is, I said, this thing about you being terrible about communication, that sounds like a limiting belief to me. And they're like, well, what does that mean? I said, well, it sounds like a story that you tell yourself that you believe. Now you believe that this defines you, and you can tell yourself a different story. You can tell yourself a story that I'm actually good at this, or I'm better at this, or I'm trying at this. I'm not bad at this and then I give up. You know what I mean? I think that's really comes back to that whole growth mentality versus, what's the opposite of growth mentality?
Self-defeating behavior.
Sure. When you don't, like scarcity, like you don't think you can do better, so you stop trying.
Or
You know what I mean?
self-deprecating.
That's right. That's what a limiting belief is a story that you tell yourself that you feel defines you, but you can tell yourself a different story. Our reality is based on our perception. And if you change the way you see things or the way you think about things, then you can change the way you define yourself. You can change your own story. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I think, if you hang out with people who do what you want to do, and you actually do the thing that it is that you want to do, and you get your mindset in that you're going to achieve what you're looking for, doing what it is that you want to do, you've set yourself up for every opportunity that might come your way to be involved in, through other people, through your own actions and work and learning and growth. And then your mindset that you're going to be ready for the opportunity whenever it arrives. We don't just sit back on a couch and opportunity comes to us.
Right. Ed McMahon's not coming to your door with a Publishers Clearinghouse check. And even if he did, it's because you got up and mailed that thing in. Right.
Right. Yeah. So actually positioning yourself to accept an opportunity is necessary.
Yes. Scarcity mentality, I think, was the other thing. Growth versus fixed. That's what it is. Growth mindset versus fixed mindset. That whole Carol Dweck thing.
But I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not happy in that kind of mindset with what I do. And if I was in that mindset and I wasn't happy, I would stop doing it because it doesn't make me happy.
I agree. I like what you said about surrounding yourself with people, because there's been studies that say that your personality is shaped by the 5 people you spend the most time with. And that means you kind of have to look around and go, okay, are the people that I'm surrounding myself with, the people that I'm spending my time with, are these the people that I want to emulate, that I want to, that move me forward and are like the way I want to be in the future?
Oops. Head buttered my mic.
So it's all right. So if you want to be more successful in an area, yes, absolutely. Surround yourself closely and meet with people that either already do the thing that you want to be doing, are like the person that you want to be like, or reinforce what's already good in your life.
Yeah, I think that's important. I think that's true.
Yeah.
Which COVID doesn't help that.
No, it doesn't. When you're cooped up with your family, God, hopefully you like the people that you're cooped up with.
I want to be just like Asia.
Sleep half the day and eat when you want
and play and run.
Play and run. Yeah, that does sound nice. Yeah, I need to do more just playing. I don't need to do more eating. That I know for sure.
I don't know. In everything that we discussed here today, I think there's fear base in it.
Yeah, I
agree.
agree.
If I find fear base coming up in myself, that pisses me off. So I take an active stance in pushing that stuff away.
Yeah, you seem to be good at that. And that's something that I've spent a lot of time in the last few years trying to recognize in myself when I'm making decisions out of fear and anxiety versus when I'm making decisions out of a place of potential growth or positivity. It's not always easy. We have baggage, we have habits, we have ruts and routines, and we sometimes just fall back on those without realizing it. And it's sometimes hard to be meta about yourself and recognize when you're falling into destructive patterns or destructive habits. But I'm working on it. And I appreciate your friendship. I appreciate having you in my life to help me work on these things and to bounce things off of and to check myself, to check me when I'm being stupid.
I told you a couple of weeks ago, just go out, stand in the sun, close your eyes, face the sun so the light is shining through your eyelids. Put your arms out and say, I'm going to do this, and do it. There's nothing in your way.
Yeah. Yeah. I do that.
It's just, it's a simple action of reaffirmation. Whatever works for you. You don't have to stand. Who cares?
I need to stand in the sun. I need my vitamin D,
whatever.
Man. That works too.
Stand in the dark if that works for you. Whatever.
Just take that pause to affirm your growth.
Because gosh darn it, people like you.
That's right. People like you too.
Can't think of that
guy's
character name.
Smalley.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of funny that's such an enduring character. It was so silly, but somehow it resonated.
Well, I think people related to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of self-confidence things involved in this discussion. And I think that, having some confidence is a good thing. Not being afraid, take some risks, spend the $10 on an ad, whatever. And if that $10 is hard, then make coffee at home. Okay.
Right.
Don't go out, save up some money elsewhere so you can make it balance and work it out. Look for the good deals. I know you and I were just talking about Google ad credits and stuff like that. When those opportunities come in, take advantage of them.
Yeah. Boy, there's nothing like letting a coupon expire, huh?
Right, exactly.
Take advantage of them when they come in. Absolutely.
Yeah, because that's all. It makes you feel better. You're getting more for your money. And it gives you an opportunity to try and, oh gosh, I don't have as much invested in this. I can feel like I can risk a little bit more, and try something new.
Yeah, definitely take advantage of the lower risk opportunities. That will curb your anxiety about throwing that spaghetti on the wall, seeing if it sticks, and then take notes when it sticks. And then let that note collect on your hard drive for 10 years and then throw it away.
That's how you tell if the spaghetti is perfectly al dente.
Yes, that's correct.
And if you don't throw your spaghetti on the wall, you are not cooking Italian.
But your walls will be cleaner.
My wife does that.
Does she? I just taste it.
He throws it against a cabinet.
If you put more salt in your pasta water, it will get gummier sooner. So be consistent with your salt in your pasta water.
Oh yeah, I think I just use a pinch and just a dash of oil to keep it from sticking together in the water. Or butter.
Butter. Right. I think we've exhausted our topic.
Stratocaster.
Stratocaster?
Yeah.
What does that have to do with spaghetti?
Nothing.
Oh.
I was changing the top.
Oh. Why?
No. Because my coffee's not done yet.
Oh. Yeah, my tea's not done yet either. No, it's just fun talking with you.
Yep, likewise.
What are you doing the rest of the day?
Got a gig tonight. I
cool.
gotta get ready and everything loaded up and hit the road at 3:30 my time. And I won't get home until probably 1 a.m.
Oh, wow.
So we'll be rocking Pekin, Illinois tonight. Yep.
Well, have fun.
I will. It's never a bad time. It's just a lot of work.
Yeah.
Load in and load out. Running sounds easy.
Sure.
And hopefully just no problems. And, so far I'm hitting the 100% average of no feedback in a gig. Knocking on wood.
Oh, you jinxed yourself.
No. You hear that?
Yeah, that's right. I hear you knocking wood. Right on. We'll definitely throw a picture up on your Insta.
Yeah, we'll do. Yeah, it should be fun. I don't know. I haven't actually ran sound at this venue before, so I hear it's about 3,000 square feet, which will be nice. I don't know how tall their ceilings are or anything. We'll see what it ends up being. But once you get a crowd in there, and everything changes anyway. So.
Yeah.
All right, man.
All right, man.
Have a good rest of your day.
Thanks, you as well, and we will talk to you soon.
And listeners,
enjoy tonight.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks. Leave us a review on iTunes. We really appreciate your reviews.
Yeah, reviews would be really cool.
Tell your friends.
Yep.
Yeah, we're 5 stars right now on iTunes.
Yeah, it's just that there's not a whole lot of reviews.
There's a whole lot.
And,
That's right.
It would definitely give us some weight to that review number if we had more people reviewing. So anyway,
yes.
Thanks so much.
Thanks for listening.
Cheers.
And have a great week, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Well, that wraps up another episode of the Indie Music Podcast. Please like and subscribe, share with your friends, or just leave us a review on iTunes if you like what you've heard. Find our social links and episode guide at indiemusiccast.com. Until next time, keep creating.